Hello everybody, this is Dan from Christie's RV, and today we're going to be taking a look at this 2020 Jayflight 33 RBTS. I'm going to try to give you some knowledge on some of the stuff you may need to know once you've purchased this unit. So why don't we start at the front. So at the front of the trailer, the first thing you'll notice is the electric tongue jack. So on the electric tongue jack, there's a few buttons. The red button itself just turns the hitch-up light on. And on top of that is the up and down controls. So you just push the button up or down for the trailer to go up and down. Now on top of the jack itself has a rubber plug. So the rubber plug is there if your batteries were dead or for some reason the jack wasn't working with the switch. So you won't be stranded. There is a manual crank. So to use a manual crank, you'll pull the rubber plug out. Once the rubber plug is out, you'll insert the crank handle in, and then you can physically crank it up and down, whatever you need to do to get it on or off your truck, whichever the case is. Now behind the jack is the propane system. So the propane itself, the cover just lifts off. Once the cover's off, you'll see that there is two 30-pound propane bottles. So in between the bottles, there is a crossover regulator. Now the function of the regulator itself is to take the pressure from the tank and bring it down to a usable pressure for the stuff inside the trailer. So it's meant to be used with both bottles in the on position. Now whichever way this arm is pointing is the bottle that is actually drawing propane from. So what will happen when this bottle becomes empty, the regulator itself automatically switches over and starts drawing from the other tank. Once that happens, the little sight gauge on the front of the regulator will turn red, informing you that the bottle that it is pointing to is empty. So once you notice that that's the case, what you need to do is switch the switch over to the other tank. The indicator will go clear again, because this bottle has propane, and then you can safely remove the one bottle and have it filled. On the side of the unit here, the first thing we come to is a stabilizer jack. So the trailer comes with the crank handle to operate the jacks. So the stabilizer jacks are just only supposed to be used for stabilizing. So once the trailer is already level, front to back, side to side, then you'll put the stabilizer jacks down. If you put too much pressure on the stabilizer jacks, it can cause issues inside the trailer. Most commonly, the bathroom door or the bedroom door won't necessarily close properly. So you just have to put the jacks down enough just to take the rock away. Now, it is recommended that if there's a long space between the jack and the ground, is to put some sort of blocking underneath. The more extended the jack is, the less stable it feels. So if you're able to put stuff under the jack so it doesn't have to extend all the way, you'll definitely have it'll be better for stabilization. So the next thing behind it is the sewer outlet. So to use the sewer outlet on this unit, first thing we need is the sewer hose, which is stored in the back bumper. Take the sewer hose. So the next thing you need to do is just twist the cap off. So we'll twist the cap off, twist the hose on, and then the hose will go into the dump station. Then on this unit, it has 3 separate holding tanks. They're labeled on the side of the trailer. So you have a black tank, which is the toilet tank only. You have a gray tank here that is the sink and shower from the bathroom. And behind the wheels, there is another one for the kitchen sink. So to dump the tanks itself, you're just going to pick whichever one of those you want. You're going to grab the handle and you're just going to pull the handle towards you. That will open and allow the water to flow through. Now at the back of the unit, you have your power cord. So the power cord itself just pulls in and pushes back from the trailer. Now there's approximately 20 feet of cord. On top of that, you have your black tank flusher hookup. So this unit's equipped with a sprayer in the black tank to help clean it. So it's meant to be used with the sewer hose hooked up with the valve in the open position. Then you can hook the water on and it will help clean all the debris and stuff out of the tank. On top of that is your cable and satellite hookup. So if you have cable or satellite, that's just where you're going to hook the cable onto. Now on the back of the unit, you have your outside shower. And beside that, you have your 2 water connections. So the top one is for your fresh tank. So if you're going to put water in your fresh tank, you're just going to stick the hose in there. Once the tank is full, it'll actually start coming out underneath the trailer from the overflow. Below that is your city water connection. So if you have a hose that you're hooked up to at a campground or at home, you're just going to put it into there. Now at the back of the unit, this one has a barbecue. So the barbecue itself just sits down on the pegs on this bracket. So once you set that down on there, you have to install the quick connect propane hose. So to do that, you just plug it in here. So you just push it in and then you swing this valve over. Once the valve is over, you can just pick where you want it to be. Here, you stick the lighter up from underneath and light the barbecue. Once it's lit, then you can set to the temperature you want it to be. Okay, so underneath at the back here, there is the 2 white valves at the bottom. Those are the drains for your fresh water tank. So if you put water in your tank and you want to drain it, you're just going to turn those valves open. They both drain from the same tank. It's just so they drain quicker. So in the back, outside kitchen, you have your fridge. So the fridge is electric only. Once the unit's plugged in, the fridge is on. Up here you have your controls for your temperature. Here you have your pull-out outside stovetop. So to use it, you just got to open it up. So it's there. Then you have another one of the quick connect hoses. So the quick connect hose plugs into the bottom, and then it plugs in down underneath the unit where the other quick connect is, same as the back barbecue. Next thing here is the furnace exhaust. It is hot, so if the furnace is running, you don't want anything stacked up near the trailer where it'll be blowing the heat onto it. Next up is the fridge vents. So the fridge itself needs airflow through those vents. So you shouldn't, again, stack anything up against it that would impede airflow into the vent. Beside that, you have an outside outlet. Up here, you have the vent for the range hood. So if you want to use the range hood to open the vent, you just have to push the 2 tabs open. That's in the open position. When the fan's on, it'll keep itself open. Now when you're traveling, it needs to be put in the closed position. So you just need to push it closed till it clicks and you're good to go. Next thing here is the water heater. So to open the water heater, you just twist the little catch. So inside the water heater, everything is controlled from inside the unit. Inside here, the only thing that you really need to know where it is the drain plug for the water heater. So if you want to drain the water heater, you're going to take the plug out of here. As a side note, if you're going to pull the plug out of the water heater, you just want to ensure that there is no pressure in the system. So before you pull the plug out, you'll want to open up some taps inside. That way there's no pressure in the system. Up here is your pressure relief valve. It's a safety device made so if the tank becomes overpressured, instead of exploding, it relieves the pressure. It is normal for them to drip slightly when they're on their heat up cycle, so that's completely normal. So underneath the water heater, you have two valves here. Those are your low point drains for the water system in the trailer. So if you wanted to drain the water out of the lines inside the trailer, you're just going to open those valves, and then you'll open the taps inside, and gravity will allow it to drain out. So the other thing on the side of the trailer here, it's a TV mount. Inside the trailer, they supply you with the mount that clips into there. So if you wanted to put a TV outside under the awning, you'll do it there. To hook the TV up, it gives you the cable or satellite hookup here, so you'll just go there to the TV, and beside that is another receptacle so you can plug the TV in. So now the trailer, inside the trailer itself, we'll start with the steps. So the stairs themselves, they travel in the inside the trailer position. So to open the steps, you just need to pull the little tab out and bring the steps down. Now the stairs themselves are adjustable depending if the ground is level or not. So it just has this pin here, so you can pull the pin out and adjust the legs to whatever you need to do to get the stairs in the level position. Okay, so once the stairs are down, we can go in. So as soon as you get in the trailer, the first thing on your right hand side, the first cupboard door, if you open it, is basically your control center. So you can see it has all the various switches and stuff. So we'll start with the awning. So the awning itself, to make it go in or out, you're just going to push the button, you're going to hold it. It's going out. Now, the awnings themselves are not made for heavy winds or heavy rain. So if the weather is really bad, I do recommend that you put the awning in. As well, if you're not at the unit, I recommend that you leave the awning rolled up. So the awning itself is adjustable from side to side by just pulling down on these center arms. So if you pull down on the arm, it basically will bring this side down. Now you can do it in whatever combination you like. So you can bring it both sides down, one side down, or whatever you feel is right. And then when you want to put it up, you just have to push it back. Now the one thing over time you'll find is when you pull down, the awning will actually go, the arm won't stay down, it'll go back up. So on here there's just this one bolt. Just because it is a friction fit, occasionally you may need to just tighten that bolt up a little bit more, and never lubricate these, because if you lubricate it, then it's never going to kind of pinch itself in that position. So again, to put it up, just going to put it straight up. And then hold the button to roll it up. So while that's going up on top here is your control panel. So the control panel itself will tell you the battery life or battery condition, the freshwater tank, how much is in it, the black tank, the gray tank, or the other gray tank. So to test it, you just have to push on the button where it says, and then they all share the same gauge. So the gauges is measured in thirds. So it's 1/3, 2/3, and full. So for the fresh, you'd press the fresh, the black, the gray, and so on. Below that, you have 3 switches. So your switches are for your water pump. So turn your water pump on. If you have stuff in your holding tank, you're just going to flip the switch, water pump's on. Beside that, you have your 2 controls for the water heater. So to turn the electric part of the water heater on, you're just going to flip the switch. So with this unit as well, there is a switch beside here. So if you're wanting to run the water heater on electric, you can't run the fireplace and the water heater at the same time. So if you want to run the water heater on electric, the switch has to be up to water heater, then it's going to work properly. If you want to run the unit on gas, you're just going to flip the gas switch. So it takes a few seconds, then it's going to light on its own. If it does not light, what will happen is this little fault light is going to light up, just to help indicate that the didn't light. It will try to light 3 times. If it doesn't light in those 3 times, it'll turn the fault light on. If you've changed propane tanks, or the unit sat for a length of time with the bottles in the off position, it may take more than those 3 tries to light the first time. So if you get the fault light, I would try it a few times to make sure it's not just air that's in the system. So under that, you have 2 switches. One switch is your interior lights in the main room. The other switch is the LED strip that's underneath the awning. Okay, so below that, there's 2 slide-out switches. So the one farthest to the right is the one on the door side, so you're just going to hold it out. So this slide-out itself is what they call an in-wall slide-out. You can tell by the tracks that are on the sidewall. So it's very important on these type of slide-outs to run the room all the way out and continue to hold the button for a second or 2 after you think it's all the way out. It won't cause any damage, but because this has 2 motors built into it, the 2 motors need to stay synchronized to each other. And sometimes they can get off synchronization, but if you hold the button down for a few extra seconds, it'll just allow them to catch up to each other, and it won't be a compounding issue. So when you go all the way out, you want to hold it till it's all the way out and hold the button for a few seconds more. It definitely will not cause any damage, and it just prevents you from having that problem down the road. Now the slide out on the other side is this other switch. We're just going to hold it out. Now all the slide outs themselves, it is important that they're either all the way in or all the way out. They don't seal in the middle. So if you left the slide out in the middle, if it rained, it's probably going to leak inside the trailer. So you definitely want to hold it till it goes all the way out. So you can hear the ratcheting noise. The ratcheting noise is normal. You want to go out till that noise, till you hear that noise. That's just telling you that it is all the way out. And it won't cause any damage because that's actually, once it gets to that point, it ratchets so it doesn't cause damage. Okay, now for the third slide out, the switch is at the back door. One other thing that you should do before you run the slide outs out as much as possible is just to ensure that there is nothing stuck in behind where the slide out's going to crush it. So if you can, I would definitely look at those positions first. Sometimes the cupboard doors may open or some smaller items may fall down behind. Once you're sure that it's clear, again, we can just press the button. Okay, so beside the switch is the thermostat. So the thermostat controls the air conditioning and the furnace. So this particular thermostat is what they call compassive touch, which works sort of like your phone does, where it's not actually a button, you just have to touch the space. If you push like it's a button, eventually these stop working. So the first time you touch it, it just turns the unit on, and then you can cycle through what you want it to do. So the first time you touch it, it'll just light up, then you can cycle through. So the first thing you come to is fan. So the fan itself, you have 3 choices. You have auto, low, or high. So what fan this is going to run, it's going to run the air conditioning fan, but only the fan to help circulate air inside the unit. So if you pick high or low fan, that is what it's going to run for the air conditioning, but as well, it'll run that with the furnace running as well. So the heat will be on and the air conditioning fan will be on to help circulate the air. If you leave it in the auto setting, it will not run the air conditioning fan when you have the furnace running. So the next thing is going to be air conditioning. So the air conditioning itself, it's saying you're on cool, we're on auto fan, and then you can just set the temperature you want it to be at inside. And then it'll come down to that temperature and it'll just cycle as needed. So the next thing is the furnace. It says furnace. We're going to be on auto, so the fan won't be on. And then you're just going to set your temperature to what you want the inside temperature to be. So the furnace itself is going to run for 15-20 seconds before it lights. So just the fan's going to be running, and you're going to get some cold air blowing out. Once that's done, the furnace will self-ignite on its own, and then it's just going to run up to that temperature that you want it to be, and then cycle on and off on its own. When it comes to its desired temperature, or you turn the unit off, it will shut the flame off and run for that same 15-20 seconds. So you kind of start with cold air and you end with cold air, but it does it as a safety precaution. So it'll shut off on its own. So the next thing down here, this is what they call your load center. So to open it, you push in the center, it pops open. So in here is all your breakers and fuses. Now everything is labeled. Now with an RV breaker, it doesn't have that orange indicator like most house breakers have. So if you're checking to see if there's a breaker that's tripped, they actually don't really look tripped. So I would just find the appropriate breaker and turn it off and then turn it back on, just to make sure that that's not the issue. And to close it, you just push it in the center again. Next up is the fridge. So the fridge itself has the controls on the front. So the first one will turn it on. Then you have the mode button. So you have a few options here. So your first option is A, which is standing for auto. So what auto does is it will use electricity if it's present. If not, will light on gas on its own. So if you were plugged in and the power went out, it's just going to automatically switch to gas. And then when the power gets reintroduced, it's going to go back to electric. If you can choose electric only, or you can choose gas only. But then it'll just stay in whichever one you select. So beside that, you have your temperature settings. So every time you push it, you just get another snowflake. So you can set to what your desired temperature is. Now the temperature setting is for both the fridge and freezer together. And to open the fridge, you're just going to push down the latch and open it. So the next thing here, you have your hood vent. So on the hood vent itself, you have your exhaust fan switch, and then you have your light switch. The range top itself, the glass top just lifts and folds. So you fold it up. Then you just select which burner you want on. Turn it to the light spot. Then you turn the sparker, the light. Now the center burner at the front is the high output burner, which is a lot hotter than the other two. So if you're going to boil water or anything like that, you definitely want to do it on the center burner. It'd be considerably faster, which is also why there's only 3, so you can actually fit a bigger pot on the center burner. And then you can just set your desired temperature from the knob. So now on this side, there's a switch. So it does either lights up the rings on it, or it lights up the rings and the oven light inside the oven. So on this unit itself, to light the oven, you have to turn the oven knob to the light spot. When you get to the right spot, the knob will actually be able to be pushed in. So you're going to push in and hold the knob, then you're going to turn the sparker. Once it's lit, you can see down there the flame. You have to hold the knob in for a few seconds. Once you release the knob, the flame should stay on. Then you can set it to whatever temperature you want, and it's just going to cycle on and off to keep the temperature where you set it to. Now, if you didn't want to turn the oven off all the time or have to light the oven all the time, if you just turn back to the flame symbol, it'll just keep the pilot running. So you don't have to bend over or light it every single time. If for some reason the pilot went out, there is a safety built in and it'll shut gas flow off. So there'll be no propane leak inside. And turn it off, we just turn it all the way. Here in this black bag is all your warranty paperwork. So each individual piece that's in the trailer, the fridge, the furnace, the water heater, the TV, all the owner's manuals are in that bag. Then you have your sink. So the sink itself has one removable cover. The other has like the drying rack. The drying rack kind of like rolls up out of the way. Inside, we supply you with some toilet chemical and a 30 to 15 adapter if you wanted to plug it into a regular outlet. Okay, so over here you got the TV, you got your stereo, and your fireplace. Now, the fireplace itself can be operated two ways. On the front, it does have the buttons to operate it here, so you can turn it on. You can set the temperature, so if you want it to blow heat or not. So you have high, low, or no heat. You can change the flame how you want it to be, and then you can set a timer. So you could set it so it only stays on for an hour and then shuts itself off. The other way to control it is actually the TV remote itself. Here at the bottom has controls for the fireplace itself. So again, you can do the same thing. You can change the flame colors, you can turn the temperature on or off, you can set the timer, or you can turn the unit on and off with the same remote from the TV. So on the speaker, or on the radio itself, you do have the option there for these two speaker zones. So you can turn it on by pressing the button. So you have the two speaker zones. So speaker zone 1 is the inside of the trailer. Speaker zone 2 is the exterior speakers on the outside of the unit. So you can choose inside, outside, or both. If it's red, it's off. If it's blue, it's on. So in the front bedroom, your lights need to be turned on by pushing the buttons on the light itself. On here on the sidewall, there's a TV mount. So the TV mount that's outside, meant for the outside, is the same as the inside one. So if you had a TV mounted in here, you could take this TV and put it outside, and then it has your cable hookup and your plug-in on the roof. Down over in the corner here, there's a charging center. So it has like a cigarette style plug and two USB plugins. The bed itself has lift props, so you just need to lift up. The bed will stay open on its own and push down to go into place. Okay, so in this unit there's a couple different types of windows. This window here is an emergency exit, so if for some reason you needed to exit through there, you couldn't get through the main door. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to pull this red tab, which will pull the screen out of place. Then you can flip this lever up and push out, and the window is hinged at the top, so you could get out of the unit. So you can use the window for ventilation, and you'll just push it out till it latches in place. Now the only time I don't recommend this is if it's fairly windy out, because nothing's really holding it from going out farther. So if it did, you know, the wind caught it and it did open up, you just have to put this arm back in. It just pushes all the way out. And to close it, you're just going to pull it closed and latch the arm. So there's an emergency exit in each individual space. So there's one in the front bedroom. There's one behind the couch, which is the same way to get out of it. And then in the rear bedroom, the exit is up at the top bunk. Again, all the same way to get out of them. So in the rear, to turn the lights on, again, there's just the push buttons. So at the back of the unit, in the slide outside, you got your table. It will fold down to a bed if you wanted it to. You just have to take the legs out from on the bottom and it sets down into place. The top bunk itself is just on the struts. So you either just push it down to be in position or lift it up and it'll stay up on its own. So in the back room actually has your access for your water pump. So the water system on the unit has a winterizing bypass built in. So when you want to winterize the trailer, all of the equipment you need is there. So to get to the water pump, you have to flip the mattress up on this bunk. Then it has a little access panel. You remove the access panel, and down here you can see the water pump. So you see the water pump, and you see the clear hose. So the clear hose itself is made to go in the jug of antifreeze when you want to winterize the unit. And here there's a valve. So the valve itself chooses either to draw from the holding tank or from the hose, and you just have to turn the valve. So whichever way the valve is pointing is the hose it's going to. So right now it'll be the trailer, like drawing from the tank. If you turn it, it'll be drawing from this clear hose that will go into your antifreeze jug. So the other part of the winterizing bypass is in the bathroom. So in the bathroom is the back of the water heater. So when you needed to winterize the trailer, it has valves as well. So you'll open the door, you'll take the screws out of this panel and pop the panel off. So on the back of the water heater, there's two valves. So there's one there and one up there. So the valves themselves, again, control the same thing. So if the valve is with the line, you're in winterizing bypass mode. And if you're here, then you're in summer mode. So the upper valve is the same way. So if you're pointing towards it, you're summer mode. If you're pointing away from it, you're bypassing the system. So in the bathroom itself, you have your GFI receptacle. So the GFI receptacle here, it controls all the GFI breakers in the trailer. So anyone that's in a wet condition, so the outside receptacles or anything around the kitchen sink or this bathroom one is controlled through here. So if for some reason one of those plugs doesn't work, most likely it's tripped, this GFI. So when the GFI is tripped, the little red light's going to be on, and none of those receptacles are going to work. To reset it, you just press the reset button until the light comes off and you're ready to go. The shower itself has this rubber latch to keep the doors closed while you travel. To undo it, you just move the rubber piece out of the way, and then the doors slide side to side. Now the toilet is foot flush. So on the bottom you have your foot pedal. So if you step the pedal all the way down, it will flush the toilet. If you hold the pedal part of the way down, it'll actually just add water to the bowl. So with the toilet system in general, I highly recommend using RV toilet paper, number one, and some sort of holding tank treatment. Before I showed you the monitor system that tells you the levels in the tank. It's very common for the black tank or the toilet tank to read improperly. So it'll say that there's a third or 2/3 of a tank when the tank's actually empty. The way the system works is there's probes in the tank, and if anything touches that probe, it thinks that's where the level is. So by using proper toilet paper and chemical, it helps the stuff from being stuck in the tank and giving you an improper reading. So with the holding tanks, if you didn't pay attention to it and the tanks were full all the way, the black tank or the toilet tank, it'll just be at the point where when you step on the pedal, it physically won't flush down. That would be your first thing you should do is then try to dump the tanks, because that's most likely what the problem is. If it is either of the gray tanks, what it's going to do is it's going to fill up to the lowest point. So if it is the one in the bathroom and it gets all the way full, the shower itself will, look, the water will be standing in the shower. If it is the other tank, it will be probably the outside kitchen sink will stop draining. But once you notice that, you can just dump the tanks and you'll be all right. One last thing I wanted to show you is down here at the bottom. There is a propane and a CO detector. It does both things. It is hardwired to the battery on the front of the trailer. So if the trailer is not plugged in and the battery's connected, it will draw some power, and over time it will draw the battery down. The first indication that the battery on the front is getting low is this detector actually lets out a high-pitched squeal. The high-pitched squeal is telling you that doesn't have enough voltage to do its job properly. So if that high-pitched squeal is happening, most likely your battery's low and you just need to plug the unit in so it'll charge back up. Now, there is a test button on it, so you can press the test button. There's lights down at the bottom, so depending on if it's detecting propane leak or a CO problem, it will flash which light it's detecting. So you have to look at the light to see if it's saying it's a propane leak or it's a carbon monoxide leak. Other than that, I think we're all done. I hope that you enjoy your new unit, and have a good day.